Hi there, and welcome back to another video on Because of Dragons. I quite enjoyed doing the last video for last week where I was looking at Mordheim and some things that you could go out to try and buy miniatures and sort of dive into the game, even though the game is effectively dead. And so that's what I thought I'd do here. I have been thinking about Warmaster for a little while now, actually, and you may remember a video on the channel where I was looking at some of the best miniatures that I could find on the market that I've been sent and that kind of thing, for sort of diving in. A lot of that stuff is done 3D printed, but you can buy things physically as well. And so what I thought I'd do here is another kind of sort of, I guess, buyer's guide to getting your hands on 10mm, sort of 12mm figures that you can use for playing Warmaster. Now, what you're seeing here is the cover of Warmaster Revolution. So this is the effective updated version of Warmaster that was decided by a group of individuals who wanted to try and update Warmaster to fit into the modern gaming space. Warmaster was a massive battle game where you controlled smaller figures than normal 28mm, so they were normally 10 to 12-ish millimeters in size. And you would rank them up into huge armies and you would do battle on the tabletop. The focus was less on individual heroics and more on sort of general command of the battlefield, and sort of, you know, the large swinging momentum of battles where flanks would be determined by cavalry charges and all that kind of thing as well. So it was a big game, one that a lot of people really enjoyed, but possibly not as much as regular Warhammer Fantasy Battles, and so it kind of fell off the radar a little bit. Rick Priestley, as was discussed in this particular version of the game, was always planning on doing another version of Warmaster, but unfortunately it never came around. But Warmaster Ancients, was a game that has influenced a lot of other products out there at the moment, and that was effectively the second edition of the game. And so what this group here, the Warmaster Rules Revolution Committee, have done is they've taken the rules of Warmaster and they've updated them to a new edition of the game so that you can dive in and play it once more. With whatever armies you might have lying around. They might be the old metal ones, or they might be newer miniatures and that kind of thing that you found online. A lot of this is sort of going back to basics of large-scale 10-12mm warfare. You've got the command phases and orders and all that kind of thing as well. Things are split down into brigades and that kind of stuff as well. But it's definitely still a game of massive proportions, and it's all done with centimetres rather than inches, which will be interesting to a lot of folks, I'm sure, especially if you've normally played in inches with some of the 28mm games out there, and 15mm as well, of course. There is also a armies book, which I was showing off here, which consists of all of the armies for a lot of the standard races and factions within Warhammer Fantasy Battles, but also sort of added things in there as well. So you've got things like the Witchers and army, and you've got Goblin armies and Albion in there, alongside slightly more recognisable forces like Dwarves and Skaven and High Elves and all that kind of thing as well. So it's a pretty nice little book that I will definitely recommend you go and read. They've done a really good job of putting this together, and there is a reason that it is so well liked. But of course, the big thing is, how do you dive into playing Warmaster when it's really hard to get the miniatures? You could buy a starter army, but it would cost you maybe a couple of £100 on eBay. Well, thankfully there are people out there who clearly love Warmaster and games associated with that, which we'll talk about later. And they have created amazing miniatures ranges for you to dive in and have fun with. So I'm going to have a look at some of those now. If you want links to all of this stuff, it's wm-revolution.com, but I'll have all the links down below as well, so you can go and check it out. But yeah, so you've got the full rule book, and you've also got the army book as well. So some pretty nice stuff there. But yeah, miniatures. So one of the sort of producers, I guess, that I think you should definitely go and check out, if you just want to get your hands on pretty much anything, is Excellent Minis. So Excellent Minis do what they've coined the Warmeister collection. So this is a selection of 10 mil armies that have been designed by a numerous array of creators. You've got Forest Dragon 3D, Tartesso Miniatures, Artisan Guild, Chromati Forge are in there as well, Green Skins Miniatures, Mini Rat Studios. They have come together and built some absolutely stunning armies that are all 3D printed for you, so you just have to basically get these. You don't have to buy the 3D files. You can buy them without having to worry about printing anything yourself. Obviously cost you a little bit extra, of course, but they have managed to print these off in exceptionally good quality, and they're available pretty much all over the place, so you can get these miniatures all across the world, to be honest. I'm just going to show you through some of the options that they have in here, and so you can see what I think. So yeah, one of the great things about 10mm and 12mm, I think, is that it allows you to really play games on like a massive grand scale, and show off like huge sweeping cavalry formations, massive blocks of infantry that were obviously a massive part of, you know, big Warhammer Fantasy battles. They weren't fought by hundreds of men, they were fought by thousands of men battling against thousands of orcs or undead and all that kind of thing. So this really sort of dives in and does exactly what it says on the tin. As you can see here, they've done a whole bunch of stuff that is slightly more esoteric as well. So you've got the likes of the Albion miniatures there. So you've got a Truthsayer and a Dark Emissary and also a Fen Beast as well, which is kind of nice. They've even done a Gotrek and Felix, which is pretty cool to see. But yeah, so this is a sort of look through some of their kind of Empires of Man figures. You've got your giants and all sorts of things in there, which is quite nice. Good selection there. There's a lot of these, so I'm just going to sort of whiz through them so you can have a look, really. You've got elves, so you've got elves of the wood, so your wood elves. A vast majority of these are probably going to come from Forest Dragon. Yes, he does really good wood elf sets, but there are also a whole bunch of other creators in here as well, as I mentioned at the start. So if you're looking for wood elves, they have got like an absurdly good collection of miniatures for you to dive into. Like, what's really nice about these is that they've clearly gone to the effort of putting together really good print quality. Like, that is fantastic for 10, 12mm figures. And I think these would take contrast paints exceptionally well, because they're so detailed. You just have to lay down, like, maybe spray these silver and then do some of the additional contrast work over the top to make it look like it's glittering kind of thing. But yeah, they have done amazing work on the different elves that you can pick up. Same goes, sorry, these are the rest of the wood elves and stuff. There you go. Here are your vampire counts. So you've got your vampire lord and the necromancers and all that kind of thing. They have some really nice sections in here. What's really nice about a lot of the stuff that these people do is that they tend to put together really good ranges that highlight a lot of the special characters, as well as just doing kind of like normal stuff. So you've got like Heinrich Kemmler in there as well, which is always nice to see. But yeah, it's a nice selection of miniatures. Once again, you've even got your von Carsteins in there as well, which is very good. But yeah, you can even get a look at some of the miniatures a little bit close up. I mean, look at the zombies. That's fantastic work, and exceptionally well printed as well. They all come on the strips too, which is nice, so you can easily set them up for some Warmaster. You've got your high elves as well, or your noble elves as they call them. Again, really good quality sculpts from a range of different creators. I mean, look at the detail on those. Oh, just so gorgeous. And I like when they do little sort of diorama sets like you can see here. I think it makes for really good collections that really sort of pop out and shine, which is really nice. Then you have your shadow elves. So if you want your dark elves, you have them as well. And again, an amazing selection of things. What's really good about the Excellent Minis collection is that they tend to have collated a lot of stuff. So in most cases, they've put together a good selection of miniatures that would form the sort of core basis of your armies. So as you can see, they do starter army deals, which is quite nice. So you're going to get all the rank and file you need, and then maybe a couple of additional special things. And because they've been able to draw from a couple of different creators who tend to share a similar aesthetic, I think they've done a really good job of putting together fun armies for you to use on the tabletop. I mean, look at this. That's just amazing. I love that. That's a stunning Manticore. sort of lunging forward. Very cool indeed. Very cool indeed. Outstretched hand at the back there, and then a claw on rock. You can't have it without a rock. You've got your dwarves as well. So if you're looking to put together a dwarf army, some of those I showed off in my other video. You've got a really good section there too. Let's just dive in and show off some of these. Here we go. Let's look at these. It's good to show off some painted figures. Again, really easy to paint this kind of scale. You'd think that it wouldn't be, but I think they've done a really good job of putting together like models that they have enough detail on them for you to pick little tiny bits out, but in the vast majority of the cases you can just sort of whack a colour down and they're ready to go. You know, spray all these bolt gun metal, do some of the gold details, do some beards, and effectively they're done really. They're big, heavily armoured dwarves. What else do you need? You've also got, pardon me, some slightly more esoteric miniatures as well. So you've got your Tomb Kings going on, which is really nice to see. All but forgotten in the mortal realms, so it's nice to see them living on in Warmastery form. So you've got your Khemri and your forces there. You have your Chaos Dwarves with their vast array of interesting and quirky miniatures. Let's just check out some of these and see what you think. Oh, you know, you've got to show off a general on a Bane bull. That's a fantastic figure. Once again, stunning work on these. And I think these are probably the top quality when it comes to Warmaster armies that fit the aesthetic. It's one of the things we talked about in the Mordheim video. It's the idea of fitting the aesthetic of a game and a world, and I think these really fit that aesthetic of Warhammer. And of course, allow you to keep playing the game forevermore, as it were. Cool. So you've also got your Chaos forces. So you've got some big demons and stuff on the go here. See if I can find some of the printed models, because actually let's show off this, because Forest Dragon do some stunning work. Here we go. You can see one in the background here. So you got your Archeon style model there, looking absolutely fantastic. When we looked at the High Elf Dragon in the other video, which will be linked at the end of this particular look through, this flick through, we saw how just detailed that was and how crisp that was when it came out from printing in detail, which we'll look at in a little bit. But you can imagine the same amount of quality has gone into these sculpts as well. Just would be fantastically easy to paint with contrast once again, really. So yeah, amazing miniatures there. You got your orcs and goblins. They've all sort of been carried over and adapted for this range as well. Let's look at some. Let's see if we can find some more of the rank and file stuff actually when we're going through this. What's quite nice is that even though you'll see that some of the ranges are by different creators, the aesthetic is similar enough that if you've picked up maybe a set of the Forest Dragon sculpts or something, the aesthetic matches more or less identically to a lot of other collections out there. So maybe some stuff from Chromatia or something. Because of the scale, I think they've managed to do it so that everything kind of matches up quite nicely. And even then, you're not going to be able to tell when something's down on the tabletop anyway. So if you need to fill a gap with another creator, then it's not hard to do. Here you've got your slightly more step-style goblins, sort of done in a sort of mountainous fashion. Very cool indeed. Very nice. You have your Skaven. Who would not want to collect Skaven on this scale? Just get the brown out. Just the way to go with these. Let's have a look at these storm rats. Oh man, those are amazing. I really love those. What's always quite nice about these as well is that even though they're clearly, you know, printed in strips and you just sort of snap the connectors off and that kind of thing, they all feel like they're individuals, which I think is quite nice. These might be a little bit more tough to paint, but I think that is a fantastic selection of miniatures there for your storm vermin, for your storm vermin in your games. Really nice stuff there as well. Lizard men, they are catered for as well. So if you're looking to create a lizard man army, you can do that too. Pretty much anything that was in the army lists that we saw earlier from Warmaster Revolutions is pretty much covered in this selection, and I would say that you would be able to fill all of the gaps in that army book with the stuff that you can get here from all these various creators. And as you can see, absolutely stunning miniatures there once again, really finely detailed. And as I say, I've held a lot of these in my hand, and they truly are as good as you see here. And you know, when you've got problems with, well, 3D printing at home is great, and I know a lot of people are very good at it now, but if you want to sort of save yourself the hassle of all that kind of thing, or finding someone who has the ability to do that, or a fab lab, being able to get this stuff online, I think is really important. And it feeds back to the creators as well, because obviously I'd hope they get a kickback from this, because companies like Excellent will have paid a license to be able to print these and sell them. So yeah, the more you buy of these, the more people are going to be creating things, which is quite nice. You've got ogres, so one of the slightly more recent additions to Warhammer Fantasy Battles. When I say recent, that was still a fair few years ago, but if you're looking for ogres, they have got them covered. Would be slightly different painting ogres, I reckon, in 10mm, 12mm, because you're kind of looking at painting slightly larger than life miniatures compared to sort of normal rank and file figures. So it would be like creating little tiny mini projects of each of them. What's quite nice about Warmaster is that everything's done on sort of base widths and footprints. And so what you could do almost is you could almost do it as kind of diorama style affairs with ogres. I think you could have them expanding a little bit out beyond the bounds of the rank and file that you normally see in Warmaster, to kind of give things the impression of, you know, elite warriors fighting on the tabletop. These have got certainly more sort of warcrafty look to them, I'd say, rather than being, and a little bit maybe Kings of War as well. There's like a little bit of an Oni thing going on there. So it's not quite as fitting with the aesthetic of the Warhammer Old World, but as you can see, there are people who are doing more fitting sort of ogre tribesmen and that kind of thing as well. So, you know, you've got your heavy warriors there. Oh, here we go. That's a better picture. That's more in keeping with the classic Warhammer aesthetic from 7th and 8th edition. So it's nice to see that being carried over by some of the creators. Very cool indeed. And of course you could always go beyond that and tinker with some of the others if you really wanted to. There's nothing stopping you from you know, collecting some of the other stuff and doing a slightly more thematic force, maybe around sort of Cathay or something if you wanted to. There's your Ogre Tyrant as well. Again, another stunning miniature that I think would be really fun to see painted up on the battlefield. Man, they really do have some size and some heft to them, so it'd be very cool seeing an ogre army go up against a smaller army, which I mean smaller in size and stature than scale, because obviously the scale's the same. But you've also got your demons, if you are so inclined to worship the chaos powers. Again, a stunning collection of miniatures that you can see here. So look at this. I want to find some blood letters. Let's see if we can find some blood letters. I don't see any, unfortunately, which is a shame. But we have flamelings. So we have the sort of Zentian stuff going on, which is quite nice. Let's go back and have a look through more of these as things start to load. Oh, I've lost everything. It's all gone. Never mind. I didn't need to see those anyway. That's annoying. But anyway, so yeah, if you're looking for demonic hordes, you've got that. There, for example, is a really pretty badass Nurgle army. Oh, here you go. So they've got Nurgle, they've got hounds, and they've got Zentian stuff, which is quite nice. Very much sort of Zench and Nurgle seems to be the focus here over on Excellent Miniatures. But I say they're looking pretty nice. You could do a very good army with those. These would be incredibly easy to paint, because you just do them all with sort of Wraithbone or Grey Seer, and then just slap some green paint on them, and then add some rusty weapons, and away you go. Very nice indeed. But yeah, so I said a couple of creators that I really actually like that are featured on Excellent Miniatures are Forest Dragon and Mini Rat. So Forest Dragon do a vast array of different armies. So you've got your Despoilers, so you've got your Chaos Force, your Noble Elves, you've got your Chivalric Knights, which are your Bretonnians, your Vampires, and your Wood Elves, which are pretty awesome. I just wanted to highlight a couple of these. Now, when you come to this page, this is their 3D printing stuff. So this is where you get the files to print all these off at home on your own printer at your leisure, as it were. And for $70, I'd say that's pretty damn good. You get all those files that you can print off as many times as you like, which should allow you to make some pretty massive armies on the tabletop. And as you can see, they've covered everything. So they have your sort of barbarian infantry, your marauders, your chaos warriors, your marauder knights, your chaos knights, your sort of Archeon chaos lord, harpies, chaos trolls, dragon ogres. Oh, it's a fantastic little selection of models there. You've got your sorcerers as well. Same goes for your noble elves, your high elves, your high elf and dragon, great eagles, bowmen, spearmen, Illyrian reavers, Tyriok chariots, or your sort of sorcerers and heroes as well. Fantastic collection, sort of broken down there as you can see, which is quite nice. All of those are available as 3D printing files. The same goes for Minirat, who shares a similar aesthetic to Forest Dragon, which means that when it comes to matching like two creators, I think these are probably the most keenly matched of the two, and they've been doing a whole range of different things. One of their main focuses of late has been on Empire, but also Dogs of War, and I know Dogs of War are a massive favourite with a lot of people. And so you've got a whole bunch of really fun units here that are drawn from the Dogs of War army books of old. So you've got things like your Birdmen, your Arabian infantry, your pikemen as well. I think they've also done, so they've got Long Drong Slayer pirates as well, which is always nice to see. So if you're looking to put together a mercenary army, I think Minirat's the way to go. Again, these are done as 3D printing files. So if you were going to be checking these out, these would be ones that you'd have to download and print yourself at home, or get someone else to print them for you. But yeah, again, much cheaper than buying them physically. And all you'd have to do is effectively be paying for the resin to print these, which is quite nice. And it obviously takes a little bit of time, and you may have a couple of issues and that kind of thing. That's the thing. Another thing that I think is quite nice about being able to buy them from a seller is that when you buy them from a seller, you're effectively buying the quality. So if something goes wrong in the prints, they'll just print some more for you and get it sort of shipped out in good order. Whereas if you do it at home, you might have endless failed prints as you try to learn how to make it work and that kind of thing. 3D printing is a hobby all in of itself, which we won't go into here. But if you're looking for 3D printable files from two of my best picks, then I would say make sure to go and check these out. So you've got Forest Dragon and you've got Minirat there as well. If you like these miniatures but you want to get them physically, then you can come to Printing in Detail. So they are a UK based company that does 3D printing for you, and once again they have created a really awesome array of models. These are the ones that I showed off in my previous video, which I said is going to be linked at the end, and I couldn't fault the quality of them. I think the quality is superb, and what you see here in these kind of images, which we'll look at in more detail, is what you get. So for example, here's the Minirat champions and heroes and stuff. Let's find the knight. There we go. So like that's how that miniature comes from them. That quality. You may have to do a little bit of tweaking to them and snapping off sort of sprue bits and that kind of thing, but if that's what you're getting for what, £3 for that, I'd say that's pretty damn good. You're paying pretty much as the 3D file for that. It might be a little bit cheaper if you're buying the file, but absolutely stunning miniature that I think is would look amazing at the head of your army. Here you go. You've got your warrior priests. I've always loved warrior priests. Again, fantastic detail. Comes in the slightly more diorama style base, the vignette style base, which is obviously good for Warmaster. So you always have your generals on sort of circular bases, so you can see them on the battlefield. Everything else is in squares and that kind of thing. It's a good way for measuring their auras and stuff. And then here are some of their units. So there's the Empire of Man, again looking fantastic. The sort of Reichsguard knights charging into battle. Stunning miniatures with lots and lots of detail worked into them. Brilliant stuff. Brilliant stuff indeed. You've also got your mercenaries. So these are the ones that I was showing off before from Minirat. So yeah, so here's a few more of their painted miniatures and stuff. Not painted, sorry. Finished miniatures that you can go and have a look at. So you've got your mercenary dwarf army there, looking fantastic. Your Long Drong Slayers, there's Long Drong himself. And here's your mercenary marauders who've come down from the heights to battle on the tabletop, which is pretty cool. You also have the chivalric knights. So this is your Bretonnians. I really wanted to show these off because I think Bretonnians alongside Tomb Kings are one of those armies that I think everybody would love to see come back. But unfortunately, are probably not going to come back until the old world arrives from Warhammer Fantasy. From Games Workshop, sorry, for Warhammer Fantasy Battles. But yeah, absolutely stunning miniatures here. And what's really nice about these is that obviously this photography shows off how much detail you can get, and they're happy with it. That they've gone really close up to take pictures of these. Obviously that's not a 28mm miniature. It's lacking in detail in some areas, like the cloak and the helmet and that kind of thing. But for 10mm, I think that's just like jaw-droppingly beautiful. There's some more of their knights as well, charging into battle with all the different heraldic symbols on their shields, which is great because it means you've got different knightly orders fighting in battle, which is very cool. The other one in shelf is the Shadow Elves. Yeah, so I really like these, and you would have seen a couple of these over on the Excellent Miniatures web store, but I wanted to take a closer look at these as well. And I think one of the nice things, we've shown off a lot of kind of characters and stuff, but it's the rank and file that I think is really good. Again, stunning quality on these. That is hard to beat, really. And if you're in the UK, I think this is probably the people to go for. And these are from Moonjammy as well, so different creator. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put up a whole bunch of creators' names down below in the comments, so that, well, not comments, in the description. So if you want to go and check these out for yourself, you can do. So yeah, Moonjammy's been doing some great stuff over on Thingiverse. There you go. So doing some nice things there. Might have to go into Epic at some point. That would be interesting. But yeah, so some really good creators. I also wanted to talk about some slightly more traditional collections that you can find and add to your gaming tables. So Pendragon do 10 and 12mm fantasy, but they do it in metal. So if you're looking to pick up an army of awesome warriors for the tabletop, and you don't want to go down the 3D printing route, then you can go old school metal instead. Baby. Unfortunately, these pictures are incredibly tiny because, of course, they are. But as you can see, they do a good selection of armies. So you've got your sort of barbarian tribesmen, your dark elves, dragonmen, which is kind of cool. Your eldritch vampires, so your vampire counts. Your goblins, high elves, hill dwarves, normal dwarves, lizardmen, night orcs, night goblins, samurai apes, which is kind of awesome. Taurians, so you're sort of like your cow-headed beast many star fellows, more undead, wood elves, and some monsters there as well. So a nice selection of options there. And of course, prices for these are drastically lower than buying things in 28mm and in plastic and that kind of thing. So if you're looking for a quick and easy way to get together sort of 10 to 12mm armies, then I would definitely recommend coming to check out this range from Pendragon. It is very good, a little bit more old school, but very good indeed. So yeah, it should also be pointed out that there is the set of rules called Warband, which is designed with all of the armies that we've just seen in mind. So if you're interested in diving in and playing a game that's not Warmaster, then you can find Warband over on their website. I've not played it myself, but I've heard good things about it. It's another option for sort of smaller scale war games. If you didn't want to go down the Warmaster route, or maybe you picked an army from this collection that didn't quite fit into the Warmaster set of rules and the armies that they create. So yeah, some nice stuff there from Pendragon. I just want to talk about another game that I do know about and is very good, which is Fantastic Battles. So Fantastic Battles is a game that looks to ape the sort of 10 and 12mm fantasy wargaming on the tabletop, although it could go into a variety of different scales if you really wanted to. But the focus here is on fast play. There's still a kind of command and control element to the game, which is always nice to see. And there's lots of stuff in there that's sort of been done to evoke the feel of events around the battlefield affecting what happens in the fighting. So troops might turn up late. There might be different weather effects and all that kind of thing that affect the army, which I think is a really nice way to sort of even the playing field and add a little bit of randomness into the game, where you roll for each of the regiments to see whether or not they turn up or if they're late and that kind of thing, which I think is quite nice. I mean, you can't just always rely on the same tactic to win you the games. The mechanics are very quick and simple and easy to play, and one of the nice things about this game is that you effectively build your own armies by spending points to create their stat lines. So the game comes with, I think, 24 sample army lists, some of which you can see here. So there's your sort of Empires of Man, your sort of classic Empire army from Warhammer Fantasy Battles. But you pay for their stat lines, and then you pay to give them specific upgrades as well. So you can make a very, very distinctive force on the tabletop. You could play normal dwarves if you wanted to, buy them slayers and all that kind of things, as you can see here. So obviously you'd look for kind of like I mean, have they put well, they haven't put slayers in here actually, which is unfortunate, but you know, here we go, dwarven outcasts, there you go. So they've put dwarven outcasts in there, which is kind of cool, and you buy them based on them kind of being regular or formed, and then you buy each of the special rules, and you have a look at their sort of basic stat lines and tweak them to see how it would fit for you. But you could also go down the route of creating a dwarven army that is more based on them being rangers. So you could just go down the route of, you know, all of them being about sort of cavalry and crossbows and rangers in the forest, rather than it being the typical dwarven battle line. And obviously they've got catapults in here and ballista, but you could change that around and add black powder rule to there, so you turn it into a cannon and all that kind of thing. So they've really played with the rules to allow you to make whatever kind of army you'd like, using the variety of options out there in order to play your armies. And as you can see, you can play it in 28mm if you want to as well. I should point out that Fantastic Battles is played by sizes of bases and that kind of thing, rather than it being based around sort of you know, numbers of figures. So you can go down the route of creating slightly more dioramic style armies. That's not a word, but it is now. So yeah, it's another good option for you to dive into and have a go at Fantastic Battles by Nick Wright, which I will link down below as well. So yeah, there you go. I think Warmaster is one of those games that I would love to play more of. I'm going to make everyone sick. Warmaster is a game that I'd love to play more of. I have my Dwarven army sitting to be worked on in the future. It's one of those kind of coming soon forces that will be done when I can get some other people to sit down and play some 10mm with me. But if Warmaster is your thing, then it still exists, and it is easy to find some very good authentic models for you to use in your games that all fit the aesthetic of Warhammer Fantasy Battles. You can either get them 3D printed via sort of Forest Dragon, download the files and print them yourselves, or you can go to people like excellentminiatures.com or Printing in Detail in order to find the miniatures and get them printed by somebody else professionally, so you don't have to worry about doing all that stuff at home with a 3D printer. But yeah, Warmaster is another one of those games like Mordheim that is not dead. People are still continuing to play the game and create evolutions of it, and sort of iterate on the formula that was set out by all those old game designers back in the day, back in the sort of 80s and 90s. It's a game that I wish I'd played back in the day. I'm not entirely sure I would have had the same I'm not entirely sure I had the same draw as 28mm, because I got to see like really epic individual heroes fighting it out on the tabletop. But I kind of wish I'd made myself dive into Warmaster back in the day, because it was one of those games that I heartily have missed out on. I am going to talk about one more creator actually. Cobblestone Castings. There we go. So, Cobblestone Castings do some absolutely stunning miniatures in 10mm that take you in a slightly different direction, I should say. If you're interested in Lord of the Rings in a smaller scale, a la the Battle of Five Armies style, or Warmaster or Fantastic Battles, then you can pick up some really good 10mm Lord of the Rings miniatures that I think are absolutely fantastic. And you can see here you've got your mounted ring wraiths on a fell beast, on a horse. You've got your orcs and goblins on their wargs, the wolves. You've got a Saruman and some orc leaders. Maybe a sort of like a goth mog or a Lurtz there as well. And they also do the good guys as well. So you've got your fellowship, which is looking pretty nice there. I actually have this set and painted them up, and I really liked it. It was really good fun, and I will hopefully maybe show them off in a future video, perhaps, just showing off how I painted them and sort of the process I went through. But it's a really fantastic range of miniatures in 10 mil for Lord of the Rings. So if you wanted to go down the route of putting together like a Rohan or a Gondorian force, there's even dwarves as well, then this is the place to come, and you could put together some very cool forces for use on the tabletop. What I'd like to see then is like using some of the 15 mil stuff to represent larger warriors, so you could use some of these giants and stuff to create really badass armies on the tabletop in 15 mil as well, if you really wanted to. So yeah, but anyway, we'll maybe come back and look at Cobblestone Casting in a little bit in the future when we talk about maybe Lord of the Rings stuff, and where you can find some interesting miniatures out there in different forms. But yeah, if you're interested in Warmaster, or as we looked at it, Fantastic Battles, or maybe something else, maybe you've got another set of rules in 10-12 mil that you want to play. Maybe you play Kings of War in smaller scales and use that to represent Warmaster. It'd be interesting to hear what you have to say in the comments down below. As always, do some liking and some sharing and subscribing. That's how I get to reach more people, and hopefully you enjoyed another little bit more of a sort of rambling video where I talk about sort of Oldhammer stuff, and where it fits into my hobby and what I enjoy and what I've seen from my travels. You can also donate to me via Ko-fi as well, so if you want to dive down into there and send a couple of bob my way, that bob means pounds, then you can do that as well. I will spend it on a nice cup of tea as I sit down and do some more hobby. I'll hopefully be back with another video next week talking about more sort of interesting things. Maybe I'm now inspired to talk Middle Earth. That could be kind of cool to go and talk about Middle Earth and what kind of miniatures are out there for Middle Earth fans. Or maybe I'll just talk about other games from my past that I really enjoyed, that I'd love to see come back to the tabletop. That could be kind of fun. Yeah, but yeah, I'll be back in another video very soon. Well, bye for now.